I wanted to make this quick video because I wanted to show you what was in my thinking on the why we should trade Tony Romo video. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to show you why I think it's going to be so tough for us to get back to where we're a championship caliber team. And it all follows with how to rebuild the offensive line, because some of you totally agree it's got to be totally rebuilt. Okay, the first thing we have to think, do you want to win now? Is that your point? If you're trying to win now, then you feel your offensive line is capable of winning now, and all you need to do is replace, you know, certain parts of it, and it'll be better. So a lot of you think that. I really don't, and this video will show you why I don't think that's the key. My thing is we have to build for the future. We have to just scrap it, see what we have, you know, left that we can use, and then build pieces that coincide with the general manager, Jerry, and new coach's philosophy of how they want the next 5-10 years to go. That's how I think you do it. Then you set the framework for a good offensive line, or potential for a good offensive line. That's how Jimmy did it back in the day. So I think, again, I think that takes 2 to 3 years. Now, a great example is the New York Football Jets. In 2005, they kind of figured out their offensive line was terrible, and they needed to retool the whole thing. So what happened, the indication of how they knew is they gave up 53 sacks, and they only rushed for 1,328 yards. Now, we're at, what, 566 right now, or 588, and it's halfway through the season. So we're on point to be less than that in rushing yards, and that is a direct indication of the offensive, what's going on with the offensive line. And a lot of people say, well, Shango, we got a lot of rushing yards last year, but as I said in my videos last year, a lot of those yards were misdirections, counters, you know, smart plays by Jason Garrett. But as I told DC all the time, I said, man, those plays look like tricks, and as soon as, you know, the defense gets those plays, then they're not going to be there anymore. And this year, they're not there anymore. So the first piece was Brandon Moore. He's basically, I dug free. He, you know, fought. He stayed on there. I think he blocked for Curtis Martin back in the day. So he's the one piece that was salvageable. I think they cut him once, you know, but he's stuck on, and he's still there because, you know, he worked hard. And you have to find those guys, because the offensive line is about energy and force. And if you find some people that work hard all the time and got a high motor, you keep it. You can't grade that in the draft. You have to figure that out over, you know, a 16-game season. That's another reason why it takes so long. The second piece, they drafted the Brick, 4th overall in 2006. I think it was right behind Vince Young. But he was the staple of their offensive line. Once they got him, that was the indication that the rebuild was completely on. And you see, he's a blue chipper. He's somebody that's not coming up in this next draft. There's no bricks coming out this next year. No offensive tackles that you can justify a top 5 pick for. So this was a great piece by New York Jets, because, you know, when you pick a guy up that high that works the interior, the line interior, you know that on the offensive line, you know that you don't know that you have a star, because, you know, that comes from anywhere, but you know, if anything, you'll have a serviceable player. And I'm talking about the blue chips. Down in the second part of the first draft, you can make mistakes and find duds down there. But up here at the top, the least you'll get is a serviceable player. Even Tony Mandridge became serviceable after a while. So Nick Manigault was also in that same draft. They picked him up, and so they did a major investment right there in 2006 draft to retool their offensive line. So they got a center, and they got another tackle, and then Damian Woody was available free agency. That was huge for them. They had to get a grizzled veteran that has been to the big show a few times, knows what it's like to put a team together, and knows what it's like. He's like the teacher. He's like the sensei. The guy that's in the fight with the guys that's showing them how to do it. So this was a brilliant job they've done. Then Matt Slauson was picked up in the 6th round of the 2009 draft and worked his way as a starter. But check this out. They didn't do what we did with Flozell and just cut Flozell and say, oh, we believe in Doug Free. They probably believed in Matt Slauson too. We believe in Matt Slauson when they got rid of Faneca. But the Jets still addressed his position in the 2nd round with Big Bad Vlad Ducasse. And now they let them two battle it out, the rookie Vlad and Slauson in training camp, and Slauson won. So what does that happen? You got somebody that fought for his position, that's playing at a high level, and you got a backup, a capable backup. So I mean, that was a brilliant job for offensive line, and it took them. I would say I would give them almost to last year to where it started working because they made the playoffs. But I give them 3 years for this to happen. In 2005, I already told you it was 53 sacks. 2006 it went down to 34 sacks, and they got up to 1,738 yards. We're still not close to that production. Not close. We won't hit that, and that's still not good. They still need to improve. So that's the point I'm saying is, when they saw that they were giving up 30 sacks, they said, wait a minute, this has got to start going the other direction. We didn't do that. When we was giving up 30 sacks, we put Tony Romo back there and let him move and try to get away from the ball. I mean, the rushers, instead of giving Tony Romo more production. I'll get into how it affects Tony Romo more and more. In 2007, they gave up 53 sacks, so they still was making movements, changing pieces around, and that's what happens when you rebuild an offensive line. You're going to get a lot of pressure from the defense, and you're going to give up a lot of sacks. In 2008, they gave up 30 sacks, getting better. In 2009, you gave up 30 sacks. So you go, Shango, hey, the Cowboys gave up 30 sacks. How is their offensive line so much better than our offensive line if we both gave up 30 sacks? There's a huge difference here. What is it? They both gave up 30 sacks last year, but the Jets only gave up 53 hits when we gave up a whopping 78. That's like 25 more hits on Tony Romo, which was not good, was really not good. And this year, to see the progression that one team is actually going in one direction and another team is going in another direction, the Jets gave up 11 sacks this year. We've given up 12 sacks this year. Kind of like the same thing, but the Jets have only 15 hits on their quarterbacks, and we have 41. The 41 hits are huge, people. You talk about penalties, you talk about other stuff, not being disciplined and things of that sort. Yeah, that's huge too. But that is the consistent thing that's getting us killed. We got turnovers in one game with the Giants. We still lost. Why? Because of the hits on Tony Romo and the hits on the quarterback. We can't let that happen simply because the hits on the quarterback, the hits on Tony. When you wonder why Tony Romo threw the ball in triple coverage, you wonder why Tony Romo threw the ball behind Jason Witten's head. You wonder why? Because he's getting hit. He's getting hit. And I don't know what you people think. When a quarterback gets hit by those monster defensive linemen, it hurts. And when you keep putting hits and hits and hits on a quarterback, he's going to break in two ways, mentally or physically. Thank God Tony Romo's mind isn't completely shot at this moment, but his body is, and he's got one broken clavicle, a few more bad hits, that could be it. And we're getting them killed. And that number, wait and see how we play on Sunday night with Green Bay. Kitna's going to get killed. I don't think he's going to live past the next 2 weeks. I don't think he'll live past the Packers, Giants, and Colts. One of the teams are going to kill him. And then we're going to see Stephen McGill, what we got out of him. But my point is, in the next few years, while we're regenerating that line, it's going to take hits, and the quarterback is going to take hits and hits and hits. And the problem, why I think we can't just like draft a tackle or get a guard in free agency. For one, free agency, you overpay for everyone. You have, I mean, watch. When our players go on free agency, they're going to go for so much more money than you would imagine. That's one thing. And another thing, you don't know where the problem is. You say, okay, let's replace the left guard and we'll be fine. No, because it's a cumulative problem, and there's no one on the offensive line that's really, really like, oh my God, you can't play in the league anymore bad. Maybe Colombo, but it's the fact that they've degenerated so much that it's an across-the-board thing. It's no like 1, 2, or 3 or replace a cog. So that is the main reason. It doesn't matter what skill positions you have. You can have the best quarterback, the best wide receiver, the best running backs, or whatever. If you can't block, there's nothing you can do in the game of football. When you get up to playing big game and big time football, you will lose every time because you're losing the line of scrimmage. That's where the force happens. That's where everything starts and should finish, right there. All right, guys, that's my thinking. That's my thinking. If we can get a couple of draft picks in the first round, so we can get maybe if one of those phenom, I think there's 2 phenom quarterbacks in this draft that could be a quarterback for a long time, and start grinding in some offensive linemen through the draft for first rounders and stuff like that. Maybe we can turn this thing around quicker than some of you might think. It's not the turnaround isn't as big as it used to be. Look at the Rams. You get some smart people in your organization and you make some smart decisions, you can turn things around. To try to put a Band-Aid on something that never worked in the first place, why fix this team when this team never worked in the first place? I don't get it. At least when we was trying to fix the Super Bowl teams, at least those teams went to the Super Bowl. This team hasn't done anything but won a playoff game last year. You know? So why fix a team that really hadn't done anything? I don't get that. Alright. Holla at you. Peace.